Look at this image from above. Depending on who you ask, you are seeing two completely different things. If you ask a historian, they will tell you this is a star fort, a defensive structure designed in the 17th century to deflect cannonballs and protect soldiers. They will tell you it is a relic of war. But if you show this exact same image to an electrical engineer or a microchip designer, they won't see a fort at all. They will see a circuit board. They will see a capacitor. They will see a frequency oscillator designed to capture and amplify energy. And if you overlay this geometric pattern with the study of cymatics, the science of how sound frequencies shape matter, you realize that these structures match specific sound vibrations perfectly. This brings us to a terrifying realization that changes everything we know about our past. We are told these star-shaped structures, found in nearly every country on Earth, were built for war. Yet, when you analyze them with a professional engineering eye, that story falls apart. The angles create blind spots that make defense impossible. The complex fractal geometry serves no military purpose, but is essential for wave propagation. The sheer volume of bricks used in their construction exceeds the manufacturing capabilities of the population that supposedly built them. These are not forts. They are the remnants of a global energy grid that powered the very civilization that mined this planet. You are looking at the spark plugs of the Earth, and today, we are going to turn the power back on. By the end of this documentary, you are going to understand exactly how this ancient wireless energy grid worked and why it was dismantled. We are going to deconstruct the impossible mathematics of the star forts, connect them to the conductive properties of the soil they sit on, and reveal the water technology that linked them all together. I'm not just theorizing here. We are going to look at the blueprints, the physics, and the anomalies that official history refuses to acknowledge. But before we can understand how they worked, you need to understand the lie we have been sold about who built them. To see the truth, we must first look at the sheer scale of the deception. Official history tells us that the majority of these star forts were designed and built by one man, Sébastien Leprestre de Vauban, a French military engineer under Louis XIV. We are told that in the late 1600s, this single individual designed and oversaw the construction of over 300 massive fortifications across Europe. But when you zoom out and look at the entire globe, the numbers stop making sense. There are not 300 star forts, there are over 4,000 of them. They are found in the Americas, in Asia, in Africa, and even in Australia. They appear in old maps of territories that were supposedly unexplored at the time of their construction. The logic of the mainstream narrative asks us to believe that different cultures, separated by oceans and thousands of years of development, all decided to build the exact same complex geometric structures for defense at the exact same time. This is statistically impossible. What we are seeing is not the result of independent military strategy. We are seeing a unified, standardized technology that was already here before our current civilization inherited the ruins. Just as we found the giant quarries and canyons and mistook them for nature, we found these energy stations and mistook them for castles. We occupied them, put cannons on their ramparts, and claimed we built them, like children turning a crashed spaceship into a playground fort. Let's apply the method of analogy to construction, just as we did with the mining theory. If these were truly built for defense against cannons, why are they so geometrically perfect? A cannonball does not care about the golden ratio. A mortar shell does not respect Fibonacci sequences. Yet, every single star fort is constructed with a mathematical precision that is visible only from the sky. In an era before planes, before drones, and before satellites, who was this geometry for? Why would primitive people waste millions of man-hours creating complex fractal shapes that could not be appreciated or utilized from the ground? The answer is that the shape wasn't for aesthetics. The shape was the function. In the world of radio waves and electromagnetic frequencies, geometry is everything. An antenna must be a specific shape to catch a specific wave. Consider the materials. If you were building a fortress to stop heavy artillery, you would use solid stone, granite, or reinforced concrete. You would want a hard, impenetrable shield. Yet, the vast majority of star forts are constructed using red brick and pressed earth. From a military standpoint, this is questionable. Brick shatters under impact. But from an electrical standpoint, this material choice is a smoking gun. Red brick contains iron oxide and silica. It is a semiconductor. The earth packed inside these walls is often rich in quartz and conductive minerals. These structures were not designed to stop kinetic energy. They were designed to conduct electromagnetic energy. They are giant batteries grounded into the earth, surrounded by water, which is a conductor, and shaped to resonate with the planet's natural field. We need to talk about the Vauban anomaly in more detail, because it is the thread that unravels the entire sweater. The official timeline claims that these forts were built in the era of muskets and horse-drawn carts. Take Fort Jefferson in the dry Tortugas, Florida. It is located 70 miles west of Key West, in the middle of the open ocean. It is composed of over 16 million bricks. We are told that in the mid-19th century, the U.S. government shipped 16 million bricks to a remote island, along with fresh water, food, and workers to build a massive fortress to protect a shipping lane that didn't really exist. The logistics alone would bankrupt a modern nation. But here is where it gets interesting. There are no records of the brick factories that could produce this volume. There are no records of the shipping manifestos required to move this weight, and most damning of all, the fort was never finished and never fired a single shot in anger. It sits there, a massive geometric machine in the middle of the water, unexplained. It is much more likely that Fort Jefferson was not built by us but found by us. It was likely a maritime energy station, a node in the grid that harnessed the conductivity of the saltwater ocean, similar to how oil rigs operate today, but extracting a different kind of power. The global distribution of these structures proves they were part of a unified system. We find identical star patterns in the Netherlands, in Japan, in Portugal, and in India. The Goryokaku fort in Japan is a perfect five-pointed star. The official story says the Japanese copied a European book. But is it plausible that they copied the geometry so perfectly while ignoring the local terrain and military tactics? Or is it more likely that the star fort is a functional component of a machine, like a USB port or a power outlet? You cannot change the shape of a USB port and expect it to work. You cannot change the shape of a star fort and expect it to resonate. The consistency across the globe is not evidence of shared culture. It is evidence of shared utility. If you walk through the streets of Naarden in the Netherlands today, you are walking inside a massive double-star generator. The water in the moats that surround these structures is not just a defensive barrier. In the context of the energy grid, the water acted as the electrolyte. The brick walls were the anode and cathode. The star shape created the frequency. When the system was active, these structures likely pulled static electricity from the ether, the atmosphere, and grounded it into the water, creating a current that could be distributed wirelessly. This is not science fiction. This is the same principle behind the Tesla Tower, only built on a massive planetary scale, using geology and geometry instead of steel and copper. The defenders of the mainstream narrative will point to the bastions and embrasures as proof of military intent. They will say, look, there are holes for cannons, but let's look closer at those holes. In many star forts, the embrasures angle inward, limiting the field of fire. In others, the kill zones create crossfire that would kill your own soldiers. There are forts where the walls are so low that a dedicated army could simply climb over them. The military explanation is a retrofit. It is a cover story we invented to explain away the ruins we didn't understand. We found these massive power plants, realized they offered high ground and thick walls, and repurposed them as bases. We retrofitted them for war, but they were born for peace. The connection to the exhausted quarry theory is vital here. If the previous civilization had the machinery to slice mountains in half and turn deserts into quarry floors, they required a power source of equal magnitude. You cannot run a planetary strip mining operation on coal and steam. You need a grid that is omnipresent, wireless, and inexhaustible. The star forts were the nodes of this grid. They were the substations. And just like the quarries were abandoned and reclaimed by nature, these power stations were shut down, flooded, and reclaimed by the survivors who had forgotten their purpose. We see the evidence of this shutdown in the soil itself. Many star forts are partially buried, covered in layers of mud and sediment that suggest a massive flood or cataclysm. This aligns perfectly with the timeline of the catastrophe we discussed in the previous analysis, the event of the early 19th century. If you dig down around the foundations of these forts, as many independent researchers have done, you often find that the structure continues much deeper than the official plans show. We are only seeing the tops of the spark plugs. The engine block is buried beneath meters of post-cataclysmic soil. But the most compelling evidence lies not in the bricks, but in the sound. This is where we leave the realm of history and enter the realm of high-frequency physics. If you take a metal plate, cover it with sand, and vibrate it at a specific frequency, the sand will arrange itself into a geometric pattern. This is known as cymatics. As you increase the frequency, the patterns become more complex. You get circles, then squares, then hexagons, and then stars. The shapes of the star forts, 4-pointed, 5-pointed, 6-pointed, and even more complex stars, match the cymatic patterns of specific sound frequencies exactly. This cannot be a coincidence. Architects in the 1600s did not have oscilloscopes. They did not know about cymatics. So why did they build structures that are perfect 3D representations of sound waves? The answer is that these structures were tuned. They were tuned to the resonant frequency of the Earth, or perhaps to a frequency that we have since forgotten. They were designed to vibrate. When you understand this, the massive cathedral-like structures, often found in the center of these forts, stop looking like churches and start looking like resonators. The bell towers, the spires, the organs, they were all part of the acoustic mechanism that amplified the energy captured by the star walls. We are looking at a technology that merged sound, magnetism, and water. It was a harmonic technology. And unlike our modern grid, which requires wires, cables, and burning fuel, this grid was clean, wireless, and integrated into the landscape itself. But something happened. The grid was overloaded or deliberately destroyed. The mud flood buried the lower levels. The frequency was disrupted. And the survivors, huddled in the ruins, forgot that the walls around them were once alive with energy. They handed muskets to their soldiers, pointed them through the resonator gaps, and called it a fort. As we move deeper into this investigation, we are going to look at the hydroelectric connection. We will examine how these forts were positioned over underground aquifers and ley lines. We will look at the specific function of the water moats, which were never just stagnant ponds but flowing circuits. And we will explore the terrifying possibility that the star cities were not just power plants but shields that failed during the great bombardment that turned the Earth into a quarry. To understand how a star fort actually functions, we have to stop looking at it as a building and start looking at it as a component. If you dismantle a modern radio, you find copper coils, magnets, and capacitors. If you dismantle the theory of the star fort, you find water, quartz, and geometry. The water is the key that unlocks the machine. In almost every single star fort, the structure is surrounded by a complex system of moats, canals, and reservoirs. Historians tell us these were wet moats designed to slow down enemy infantry. But this explanation collapses when you look at the engineering precision of the waterways. These aren't just ditches filled with rain. They are hydro-engineered loops, often connected to flowing rivers or tidal estuaries. In the world of electrical engineering, water, specifically salt water or mineral-rich water, is a conductor. It is an electrolyte. When you place a conductive material, like red brick, which is rich in iron and silica, next to an electrolyte, water, and you separate them with a dielectric barrier, you create a potential charge. This is the basic principle of a battery. The star forts sit in the landscape like massive wet cell batteries. The specific star shape maximizes the surface area of the plates, the walls, in contact with the electrolyte, the water. A simple square fort would have significantly less surface area. A fractal star shape increases the contact area by hundreds of % without increasing the overall footprint. This is exactly how we design high-efficiency capacitors today, by folding the material to maximize surface area. Now, bring in the cymatics. In the 20th century, a Swiss researcher named Hans Jenny demonstrated that if you play a specific sound frequency into a fluid or powder, it spontaneously forms a geometric shape. Low frequencies create simple circles, but as you ramp up the frequency, the chaos organizes itself into sharp, crystalline patterns, squares, hexagons, and eventually, complex stars. The similarities between Jenny's cymatic patterns and the aerial blueprints of star forts are identical. It is not a resemblance, it is a mathematical match. This suggests that the builders of the star forts understood the physical shape of sound. Why does this matter? Because of the piezoelectric effect. The earth inside these forts and the stone used in their foundations often contain quartz crystals. When you squeeze quartz, it generates electricity, but the reverse is also true. If you run a current or a frequency through it, it vibrates. The star forts were likely designed to resonate with the Earth's natural Schumann resonance, or a manipulated atmospheric frequency. The thick walls packed with earth and encased in brick acted as the resonance chamber. The star shape focused these vibrations into the center of the structure. It was a macro-scale acoustic amplifier. This brings us to the citadel. In the center of many star forts, or the cities built around them, we typically find a massive cathedral, a basilica, or a tower. Official history calls them places of worship. We need to look at them as places of power. Have you ever noticed that these old cathedrals always have massive organs? We are told the pipe organ was for hymns, but the pipe organ is the most powerful acoustic device humans have ever created. It can generate infrasound, sound so low you feel it in your bones rather than hear it. If you have a star fort acting as a collector, an amplifier of frequency, and you place a massive sound generator, the organ, in the center, you have the potential to manipulate the energy field of the entire area. The rose windows in these cathedrals are cymatic patterns frozen in stained glass. The spires and obelisks act as antennas. The copper domes are conductors. The entire old world city layout was a motherboard. The star fort was the power supply, the water was the circuitry, and the cathedrals were the processors. This was a wireless civilization. We look at their lack of power lines and assume they were primitive. In reality, they had moved beyond wires. They were transmitting energy through the ground and the air, using the landscape itself as the grid. Let's look at the evidence of the Great Reset, or the malfunction of this grid. If you visit certain ancient forts or castles in Scotland, Ireland, or France, you find something that defies conventional explanation: vitrified forts. These are stone walls that have been melted, not burned, melted. Granite and sandstone require temperatures in excess of 100 degrees Celsius to turn into glass. A wood fire cannot do this. A siege attack with flaming arrows cannot do this, yet we see massive sections of walls fused together as if they were hit by a plasma discharge or a directed energy weapon. If the star forts were energy collectors, what happens if the grid overloads? What happens if the frequency goes out of sync? The system would short-circuit. The massive buildup of electromagnetic energy would discharge, creating heat intense enough to melt stone. The vitrified forts are likely the result of a system failure, blown fuses on a planetary scale. This aligns with the exhausted Quarry theory. The catastrophe that led to the scrapping of the giant mining machines also destroyed the energy grid that powered them. The nuclear winter of 1816 wasn't just a war, it was a grid collapse. We can see the remnants of this collapse in the so-called mud flood. This is a controversial term, but the architectural evidence is undeniable. Walk around any major city with historic architecture, London, Paris, New York, Moscow, and look at the buildings. You will see windows cut in half by the sidewalk. You will see doors that are buried halfway underground, leading to nowhere. Historians call these light wells, or claim they were designed for coal delivery. But does it make sense to build a beautiful window and then bury it in the dirt? When you dig down, as they did during the excavation of the Polytechnic Museum in Moscow or the Capitol building in the US, you find that these aren't basements. They are full ground floors with proper doors, windows, and ornamentation, completely swallowed by 10 to 15 feet of soil. The star forts show this too. Many of the moats are actually silted up. The walls go much deeper. We are walking on a layer of sediment that blanketed the world abruptly. This sediment buried the lower levels of the grid, cutting off the connection to the earth and rendering the machines useless. This creates a terrifying picture of our recent past. Imagine a civilization that had free, wireless energy. They had machines capable of slicing continents. They lived in cities designed like circuit boards. And then, a switch was flipped. The grid overloaded, the forts melted or exploded. The sky turned dark with dust. A wave of mud and water swept across the continents, burying the infrastructure. The survivors emerged into a cold, dark world. They found these massive, silent brick stars. They didn't know how to turn them on, so they did the only thing they could. They put cannons on them and prepared to fight each other for the scraps of the old world. Consider the layout of Washington, D.C., or Paris, or Rome. They are full of obelisks, domes, and reflecting pools. We are taught these are stylistic choices borrowed from Egypt or Greece. But look at the placement. The Washington Monument is a massive obelisk, antenna, sitting directly across from the Capitol dome, capacitor, connected by a long reflecting pool, electrolyte, conductor. It is the same schematic as the star forts, just scaled differently. The founding fathers or the architects of the 19th century didn't design these. They inherited them or built them according to instructions they didn't fully understand, mimicking the cargo of the gods. The bastion system of the star forts also creates a Faraday cage effect. A Faraday cage blocks external static and non-static electric fields. Why would you need a Faraday cage in the 1600s? Unless the atmosphere itself was charged. Unless the ether was thick with energy that needed to be managed. The interior of the star fort was a protected zone, a sanctuary from the high-voltage environment outside, or perhaps the reverse, a containment field for the high energy generated inside. We also need to address the impossible logistics of the soil. To build a star fort like Fort Bourtange in the Netherlands, you need to move millions of tons of earth to create the precise geometric slopes. This earth must be compacted perfectly to prevent erosion. And yet, we are told this was done with shovels and wheelbarrows by soldiers who were also fighting wars, dying of plague, and growing their own food. The math doesn't work. The manpower required to build just the known star forts exceeds the available labor force of that era. This is the same exhausted quarry problem. We see the result, the fort, but the method of creation is missing from the history books. The water connection goes even deeper. Many star forts are built on top of aquifers or at the confluence of rivers. Water in motion generates a weak electric current. If you channel that water through forced vortexes, which the sharp angles of the star motes would create, you can increase the energy potential. Victor Schauberger, the Austrian naturalist, studied the energy of vortex water. He claimed that water flowing in a specific spiral could generate implosive energy. The star forts are essentially giant water vortex machines. The sharp points of the stars force the water to circulate in specific patterns, keeping it alive, oxygenated, and energetically charged. Stagnant motes are a sign of a broken machine. In their prime, these waters would have been flowing, pulsing with the heartbeat of the grid. When we look at the ruins of the world, the Parthenon, the Colosseum, the pyramids, we see stone. But the star forts are almost exclusively brick. Why? Because brick is a lattice. It is a crystal structure fired in a kiln. It is closer to a ceramic computer chip than a stone block. The sheer number of bricks used, billions upon billions, points to a global manufacturing capability that we cannot replicate today without modern factories. We are living in the post-brick era, scratching our heads at the brick age that preceded us. We have to ask, who turned it off? Was it a war between rival factions of this advanced civilization? Or was it an external event? The exhausted Quarry video suggests the miners left or were destroyed. The star forts suggest that the infrastructure was deliberately sabotaged. The bastions that we think are for defense might have been grounding rods to disperse excess charge. When the system failed, the charge had nowhere to go. It discharged into the ground, creating liquefaction and mud floods, and into the air, creating the year without a summer. As we move into the final part of this investigation, we need to ask the question that affects us today. Is the grid still active? Are these structures still vibrating? And if we could reverse engineer the geometry, could we turn the power back on? Or is the elite already using this knowledge while keeping us on the meter? We will look at how modern military bases are often built directly on top of old star forts, like the Pentagon or the Statue of Liberty's base, and what that implies about who really controls the switch. If the star forts were the spark plugs of the Earth, then we must ask, who controls them now? The answer is hiding in plain sight, disguised as our most cherished national monuments. Look at the Statue of Liberty. Millions of tourists visit it every year, gazing up at the copper woman holding the torch of enlightenment. But look down. Look at the base she is standing on. It is an 11-pointed star fort, known as Fort Wood. Official history claims the star base was built to protect New York Harbor in the early 1800s, and the statue was added later. But does it make sense to put a massive copper statue, a giant conductive antenna, on top of a defensive military fortification? In the context of the energy grid theory, the Statue of Liberty is not a monument. It is a functioning component of the old system. The copper statue acts as the receiver. The torch, originally illuminated, represents the ionization of the air, and the star base is the ground station. It is a colossus of energy, rebranded as a symbol of freedom, to keep us from asking what it actually does. This pattern repeats everywhere. The Castle of Good Hope in South Africa, the Citadel of Hue in Vietnam, the Real Felipe Fortress in Peru. The governments of the world have turned these sites into tourist traps, museums, or restricted military zones. Why restricted? If they are just piles of old bricks, why are so many star forts still active military bases? The Pentagon itself is a massive geometric structure. A pentagon, the inner shape of a 5-pointed star. While it is built with modern materials, the geometric principle remains the same. The U.S. military headquarters is built on the ancient principle of sacred geometry and energy concentration. They know that shape controls frequency. They didn't invent this knowledge. They inherited it and weaponized it, while telling the rest of us that geometry is just for drawing class. We must circle back to the exhausted Quarry concept, because this is where the two theories lock together into a terrifying reality. If the Earth was mined by a civilization that possessed machines the size of mountains, they needed a power source that was wireless and omnipresent. You cannot run a bucket wheel excavator the size of the Himalayas using a diesel generator. You need a planetary grid. The star forts provided the standing wave of energy that allowed these machines to function anywhere on the globe, without cables. The mining and the forts are two sides of the same coin. The forts were the outlets. The excavators were the appliances. When the mining operation finished, or when the War of the Gods interrupted it, the machines were scrapped, leaving the canyons. The grid was overloaded, leaving the vitrified ruins. And the mud flood was the final cleanup, the wash cycle that buried the evidence under a layer of silt. We are the species that moved into the abandoned factory after the shift ended. We found the outlets, the forts, but we don't have the plugs, the machines. So, we stare at the walls, marveling at the brickwork, completely oblivious to the humming current beneath our feet. This creates a profound shift in our identity. We are taught that we are the pinnacle of evolution, marching from caves to skyscrapers. But the evidence suggests we are a reset civilization, living in the shadow of giants who mastered physics. We are only beginning to rediscover. We are paying for electricity, burning coal and oil, poisoning the very air we breathe while sitting on top of a dormant machine designed to pull limitless clean energy from the ether. The scarcity we experience, the bills, the fuel costs, the resource wars, is artificial. It is a control mechanism maintained by those who know the truth about the star forts, but refuse to turn the switch back on. Think about the Tartaria maps that have surfaced recently. They show a world without borders, connected by thousands of these star cities. They show a unified civilization. The narrative of nation-states fighting endless wars might be a recent invention, a divide-and-conquer strategy, used to keep the survivors of the reset busy. If we knew that we were all once part of a global, free energy grid, would we still be fighting over oil pipelines? The suppression of the star fort history is not just about hiding architecture. It is about hiding human unity and abundance. The year without a summer in 1816 wasn't just a climate anomaly. It was the winter that followed the grid collapse. The skies darkened, the crops failed, and the old world died. In the chaos that followed, the controllers, whoever they are, seized the history books. They assigned dates and names to structures they didn't build. They told us Vauban built the forts. They told us the Colorado River carved the Grand Canyon. They told us the pyramids were tombs. They wrapped the technological past in a shroud of primitive superstition so that we wouldn't try to reactivate it. But the earth remembers. The quartz in the ground still vibrates. The water still flows through the subterranean channels of the forts. The geometry is still there, waiting. We are seeing a massive awakening right now because the information control is slipping. People are buying drones, flying over these forts, and realizing that the history books are lying. We are realizing that defense is a cover story for frequency. We are realizing that the Quarry and the grid are the legacy of a civilization that didn't just inhabit the earth. They engineered it. So what do we do with this knowledge? We stop accepting the official narrative at face value. When you see a natural hill that looks like a pyramid, question it. When you see a fort that looks like a microchip, investigate it. We need to map the global grid. We need to correlate the locations of star forts with the locations of the giant ancient mines. We need to understand the flow of the circuit, because if we can understand how the machine worked, we might be able to turn it back on. Not for the elites, but for humanity. We are standing on the shoulders of giants, but we've been looking down at the mud instead of up at the stars. The implications are spiritual as well as technological. If the Earth is a designed environment, a processed quarry powered by a harmonic grid, then we are not accidents of nature. We are either the stewards of the wreckage or the seeds of the next cycle. The star forts stand as silent witnesses to a time when humanity, or our predecessors, lived in resonance with the planet. They didn't burn the Earth to create power. They used the shape of the Earth to amplify power. That is the lost key. Resonance over combustion, geometry over force. We have walked a long path in this video. We started by looking at the impossible geometry of the star forts, debunked the military explanation, connected them to the cymatic patterns of sound, linked them to the water-based battery systems, and finally tied them to the global mining operations of the previous video. The picture is complete. The Earth is a battery, the forts are the nodes, and we are the unaware residents living inside a power plant we forgot how to operate. So now you understand exactly why this works and how you can apply it to your view of reality. But here's the thing. This is just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. We have talked about the power source, the forts, and the activity was the mining, but we haven't talked about the builders. Who were they? Were they giants? Were they us before a genetic downgrade? And, most importantly, where did they go? If they had the power to reshape continents, they didn't just vanish. They went somewhere, and if you found this breakdown valuable, you are going to want to see what I am revealing next week, where we hunt for the builders themselves. Look, if this video just helped you see the world differently, if it made you realize that the fort near your house is actually a piece of advanced technology, then you need to subscribe right now. Because every single week, I'm breaking down the lost history that they don't teach you in school, connecting the dots between geology, technology, and the hidden past. Over 500,000 people have already joined this community and are waking up to the reality of the reset. Next week, I'm revealing the biological connection, how this energy grid affected the human lifespan and why we live so briefly today compared to the ancients. You do not want to miss that. So hit that subscribe button, smash the notification bell, and let's reclaim our true history together. Trust me, what's coming next is going to change everything for you.